Consider who you are.
I'm Jim in Philip's kitchen.
No, that's not what Epictetus meant. He was not the first to advocate cosmopolitanism, but he was the first to justify it.
But what is cosmopolitanism?
It is when someone sees themselves as a citizen of the world, not just as someone who is confined to one place.
Now I remember. You made a video about Diogenes before. The link is below. He was the first person to coin the term cosmopolitanism.
Unfortunately, his writings have not been preserved, so we don't know exactly what his justification for it was. However, Epictetus did take up his idea. He argues that everyone should always be a cosmopolitan.
Consider what those things are from which you are separated by virtue of the faculty of reason. You are separated from wild beasts, you are separated from sheep. In addition to this, you are a citizen of the world, and a part of it, not one of the parts destined for service, but one of primary importance for you. Possess the faculty of understanding the divine administration of the world, and of reasoning upon the consequences thereof.
I understand.
Humans differ from animals in that they can reason. We can think, understand, and make decisions. Unlike animals, we don't just act according to our instincts. Our decisions are never made in isolation.
As a soldier, I'm never alone anyway.
What, then, is the profession of a citizen? To treat nothing as a matter of private profit, not to plan about anything as though he were a detached unit, but to act like the foot or the hand, which, if they had the faculty of reason and understood the constitution of nature, would never exercise choice or desire in any other way but by reference to the whole.
That's what I always tell my men. First, think of the comrades next to you and protect them.
What you haven't understood is that cosmopolitanism has nothing to do with the army or solidarity. It is the consequence of being able to think and make decisions. As Epictetus would say, we are rational beings.
Who was Epictetus?
He was a Stoic philosopher who lived in Rome when Diocletian was emperor.
So in the vast Roman Empire, which encompassed many different cultures, there was naturally no room for nationalism.
No, the Stoa and Epictetus were by no means in the service of the Roman emperor. On the contrary, in fact, the emperor Diocletian expelled him from Rome.
Well, since he saw himself as a citizen of the world, this cannot be considered a punishment.
Yes, he was a citizen of the world.
When asked to what country you belong to, you should never say, "I am an Athenian," or "I am a Corinthian," but "I am a citizen of the universe." Why do you say that you are an Athenian, instead of mentioning merely the corner into which your paltry body was born? Or is it clear you take the place which has a higher degree of authority, and comprehends not merely that corner of yours, but also your family, and, in short, the source from which your race has come, your ancestors down to yourself? And is it not from such an entity that you call yourself Athenian or Corinthian?
If I go back 50,000 years, I can trace my ancestors back to East Africa. The same applies to everyone, so we are all related.
Epictetus goes even further. He includes God.
Which God?
Any God. Stoics are not concerned with a specific God, but with the concept of a supreme being. God is defined in religions as a supreme being to whom nothing is superior.
Well then, anyone who has attentively studied the administration of the universe and has learned that the greatest and most authoritative and most comprehensive of all governments is this one, which is composed of men and God, and that from him have descended the seeds of being, not merely to my father or grandfather, but to all things that are begotten and grown upon earth, and especially rational beings, since it is theirs alone by nature to have communion in the society of God, being intertwined with him through the reason. Why should not such a man call himself a citizen of the universe?
Epictetus tends to express himself in a rather complicated way, but I think I'm beginning to understand.
Because human beings are endowed with reason, which makes them equal to the gods. Everyone is equal regardless to their social status, gender, nationality, culture, or ethnicity. Whether someone is born in a remote province of the Roman Empire or in a palace in the capital, they are a citizen of the world. This ancient idea is strikingly modern.
Okay, I'll ask again. Why do godlike people become citizens of the world?
No other human being can be superior to someone who is godlike. Everyone is then on the same level.
Everyone is then his own boss.
Not only that, but we are also citizens of the world because we are part of a community.
First of all, that's an assertion.
Epictetus also justifies it.
If you asked a chorister to recognize himself,
Why a chorister?
Epictetus is referring to theatre because there was always a chorus in ancient theatre productions.
would the chorister not then comply with the command by focusing his attention on his fellow singers and on singing in harmony with them?
Well,
And what about a sailor
yes, certainly.
or a soldier?
That goes without saying. A soldier is always part of a larger unit.
So does it seem to you that man, as a living being, is created for himself alone or for the community?
For the community.
And because we human beings are endowed with reason, we are also moral beings.
By nature, we are all disposed to live free from wrongdoing and virtuously. Everyone has this possibility.
He's very optimistic about that.
Epictetus only says that we have the potential, because we can all act morally in the same way. We are all equally responsible.
And this is striking proof that legislators prescribe what all citizens ought to do and forbid what they ought not to do. They exclude no one from punishment for disobeying or violating the law, whether they are young or old, strong or weak.
Well, but it wasn't like that in ancient times. There were slaves, for example.
Yes, bearing in mind the era he lived in, he describes how the world should be, not how it is. Slaves, as well as women and other groups, were clearly disadvantaged under the law. Epictetus presents the consequences of his thinking here. If people are like gods and are responsible for their actions, then they must all be equal before the law. This is a very modern idea, but of course, he was way ahead of his time.
Do you believe that Epictetus's ideal has been realized today?
No, cosmopolitanism is an ideal that we can strive for, but we have not yet reached it. In many respects, it is still wishful thinking today.
Is not the common fatherland of all people the cosmos?
So, Diogenes and Epictetus were at the beginning of the path. How did this idea of cosmopolitism evolved?
Well, Epictetus belonged to a school called the Stoa. This school was very influential in the Roman Empire. In fact, there was an emperor who openly professed his allegiance to the Stoa in his self-reflections. Marcus Aurelius, often referred to as the philosopher emperor, was one such emperor.
He was also a pretty good general. He was usually on the move with his soldiers.
He wrote his philosophical works in the field while fighting the Marcomanni in the Danube region. In fact, he was more of an emperor than a philosopher. His self-reflections and his actions were far apart. As emperor, he ruled with an iron fist. He punished slaves severely. He permitted husbands to kill their wives if they were unfaithful. He was not an enlightened emperor. He also emphasized another aspect of Stoicism, that you should resign yourself to your fate. Of course, if he were both an emperor and a revolutionary, it would be a contradiction.
This makes Stoicism seem implausible.
But Epictetus was not the last Stoic philosopher to advocate cosmopolitanism. One example is Hierocles. Little is known about his life. He developed a circular model of cosmopolitanism. According to this model, the individual consists of concentric circles. The first circle is the self. The second circle is the family. The third circle is the fellow citizens. And the fourth circle is the whole world.
Okay, so he's trying to square the circle. You are closest to yourself, then to your family, and then to strangers. Nevertheless, we are all people of the same community.
This theory was adopted by the Christian philosopher Augustine of Hippo. Christianity generally adopted the Stoa's arguments and postulated equality. However, This equality is not actually between people, but between souls. This kind of equality is only realized in the afterlife.
Inequalities in life can continue to exist on Earth without contradicting the idea of equality.
That is Augustine's philosophy. He also applied it to the state. According to him, the state is immoral, but we have to put up with it. Our moral actions will be rewarded in the afterlife.
Was this the end of cosmopolitanism?
No, of course not. However, we had to wait until the 17th century and the Age of Enlightenment for people to see themselves as cosmopolitans again. Immanuel Kant is one example.
I think that's the topic for another video.
I think there is more to say about the story.
Thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe.